Hello, and welcome to yet another late chapter review. At this point, you guys must think that I do this on purpose, but I swear I'm not. Anyway, for today's video, we have something special as we are going to go into not one, but instead two chapters. And I'm of course talking about chapters 229 and chapter 230. So with that said, please consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like and a comment, and let's get right into it. Chapter 229 starts with Snuffy taking his car to his best friend Mick Moon's home. As he's walking closer, he remembers Mick's words, saying that they will become the best players in the world, however. When he enters the house, he finds Mick dead on the floor. After that, we get to look into Snuffy's earlier life when he first got paired up with Mick, which none of them was especially happy with. But soon they became good friends, who got to share the feeling and the dream of playing on the field. They quickly feel like they are invisible, and say that there's nothing in the world that they can't have, and that they will definitely become the best players in the world as they win the championship final with the score 2-1. But suddenly it started to go downhill, and Snuffy called on Mick for a meeting, where he said that they had both gotten dropped from the starting lineup. This was to be expected as their performances this season have been nowhere closer to the last year. Mick adds on by saying that they might have fooled around a bit too much, and that it's time to switch the flip and go all in now. However, Snuffy says that it's impossible to do it here, as their relationship with the club, and especially the manager, is beyond repair, telling Mick that they have to start from zero, even if they have to play for some mid-tier team. But Mick finds this ridiculous, as he calls him an idiot, and says that they are kings who only play for big clubs. Snuffy doesn't listen, and says that it's time for him to wake up, telling him that they aren't world-class players anymore, but instead second-rate players. Saying that football is a constantly shifting, harsh, competitive world, it's a world where anyone can become a star overnight, while the opposite can happen as well. New players are always looking for ways that force them to grow up and choose a more robust and smarter future. Mick is quiet for a bit, before he asks what the hell it is that Snuffy is talking about, saying that they still have their promise and dream, which is to win in all of the Big 5 leagues and that they have only won in one so far. Snuffy tells him that it's still highly possible, but later on, even so, Mick just says that he's boring, telling Snuffy that if he's not going to pursue the same dream as he is, then he can get out, which Snuffy does. However, he tells Mick to not come crying back for him later on. Mick just laughs and says that he won't change the way he lives, and says that in any era the people who ultimately change the world aren't the intelligent people who live their lives the right and safe way, but instead some stupid brat who possesses a childish, nonsensical dream. After that, we get back to Snuffy, who is hugging Mick's cold and lifeless body while crying his eyes out, apologizing to Mick that he couldn't share the same dream until the end, saying that they couldn't fulfill their dream together, but that he will continue to dream and make it a reality. And with that, we are back to the Ubers game where everyone is going to celebrate Barou's spectacular goal. Snuffy makes his way over there and compliments his goal, telling Barou that there was no way that he could have predicted that goal and that his ego surpassed every one of his designs, and calling it Barou's win. Even so, Barou says that he doesn't need Snuffy's praise or hindsight analysis as their partnership is over. However, there's one thing as a footballer that Barou wants to tell him. Barou says that retiring after this season, just because he fulfilled a dream he shared with his dead friend, asking Snuffy if this is his so-called adult way of living. He tells Snuffy that he won't let him just run away and disappear with his precious trophies just yet, not while he is still playing at least. Barou finally takes his hand away from his face and looks Snuffy dead in the eyes, saying that he better not retire and that the two of them still have a score they need to settle. Snuffy is approaching him while laughing, but not just that, as he tells Barou that he won't retire, as he's the best player in the world after all. While he's saying this, he also has an internal dialogue with Mick, as he says that with the advice he gave him before, Snuffy can finally believe him now, as until the day he dies, he as well is a goddamn brat who selfishly pursues his dreams. This hypes up all of the Uber players who are extremely happy to know that their captain and also idol won't retire just yet, and it even makes Lorenzo confess his love to Barou. However, it's not over just yet, as both Barou and Isagi are thinking that the last goal will settle this once and for all, as they have an intense look on their face. Now, before we jump right into the next chapter, let's go over this one a bit. I want to quickly cover Snuffy's backstory, and how tragic it really was. Seeing your best friend lying dead on the floor must have caused him incredible pain, and even some regret and guilt for not being able to share their dream until the end. This also leaves us with an incredible what-if situation, like what would happen if Mick didn't die? Would he wash away with the new wavy of newcomers that was about to come, or would he be able to stand next or even above of Snuffy? However, I guess we will have to leave that to our imagination. I was also so surprised when Barou kind of got emotional towards the end, actually caring for Snuffy and kind of forcing him to continue playing, which he agreed on. And I honestly can't wait to see what the two of them manage to cook for insane strategy and formation next. Anyway, with that, let's go right into chapter 230, which starts off with the commentators going over the new and amazing news they have just heard coming out from Snuffy. They say that after being inspired by Barou's super goal, Snuffy has decided to rescind his retirement and continue playing. And with that, all of the Uber's players go storming off into Snuffy's arms. However, looking at this from afar, we have Isagi, who's pissed to the extreme, screaming his whole heart out. He thinks that Barou stole his spotlight, and that Barou was always aiming for this from the start. The timing to shoot between Isagi's legs to freeze Gagamaru from reacting. Even went as far as hijacking Uber's system for himself and using it to score goals, ending it by saying that Barou managed to completely devour him. But just then, Raichi comes over and apologizes, saying because he was man-marking Snuffy, he couldn't fully contain him. However, Isagi denies that and says that he did his job. He disrupted and eliminated some of their options, and that they just couldn't score and got their ass kicked on the counter because of his tactics. Isagi was so close, but yet he can't see a vision of himself winning against Barou or Kaiser. Just then, the announcer goes off and says that the star change system is over, and that both masters have to leave the field and make their substitutions. This gives Isagi more puzzle pieces as he knows that the field is just about to shift. Snuffy goes to the benches and picks Sendao for his substitution as he's fully recovered. However, the same thing can't be said about Kurona, who is having a hard time standing. And here we have Igarashi really thinking that he will get to be sent in. What a joke. Anyway, Noah says that the next player with the best overall stats is Kiora Jin, and that it's his time to play as a right back. When I first saw this, I was ecstatic. I've been waiting for Kiora for so extremely long that I can't even describe it. However, my happiness quickly shattered as Isagi came over and told Noah that if they do that, then they won't win, and Noah asks him to explain himself. Isagi explains that Kiora is a talented player, and if they look at his individual stats, it's right up there with the rest of the starters, not to mention that his skill set allows him to take over Kurona's place at right back seamlessly. However, to defeat the Ubers as they are now, they need a player they can't predict, and someone who can improvise on the fly. And I love how Kiora is just standing there watching them talking about him not getting to play, which is kind of sad. Anyway, back to Isagi, who says that they need a playmaker who can breathe new ideas onto the pitch, otherwise known as a game changer. Noah is quiet before telling him that Bastard has a rule where players are ranked and picked according to their overall numbers. Yet Isagi insists on breaking this rule and using a player with a lower rank. Noah even asks Isagi what his logic is for this argument. Isagi doesn't hold back and says that it's to allow him to score, and says that for him to become this game's hero, he needs Noah to put Hiroi into the game instead of Kiora. Isagi apologizes to Kiora and says that it's something that he needs to try out with Hiroi, saying that Hiroi is the only player who sees the game as he does, and that he's the only one who can keep up with his vision and thought process. Isagi begs Noah, telling him that he's just one piece away and that he needs his partner to score the winning goal. But even so, Noah refuses. He says that he won't accept such a childish and emotionally driven argument, and that he only accepts rational and logically driven arguments. But that's when Hiroi starts, saying that if they had one more playmaker who sees the game from a bird's eye view, then that means that the player can anticipate Isagi's movements and support him. And if they can manage to do that, then they can minimize the time Isagi spent strategizing and increase his play speed. To the opponents, it would seem like there are two Isagis on the field, saying that he is fine with being Isagi's shadow. Hiroi thinks that after being controlled by his overbearing parents, he was sick and tired of people forcing their expectations on him, but for some weird reason. Right now, this is the first time he's wanted to do something for himself. As he puts his gloves on, he says that he wants to see how he stacks up against the world, and that for the first time in his life, he's going to believe in himself. And with that, Noah finally concedes and accepts their proposal. However, he also says that if they screw up, they will both be dropped from the starting lineup, which they gladly accept. And with Hiroi in his hand, Isagi is fully ready for his last and final piece to seize this game. The next chapter is going to be called Dive to Blue, which sounds pretty intriguing. Anyway, let's talk about this chapter and how Kiora got robbed. Look, I love Hiroi and I'm super excited, and I can't wait till we see him in the game. However, you can't just come and tell Noah to sub in someone else when Kiora finally gets his spotlight. And look, I understand that this is for the best of the game and Bastard Munchen as a club, as they will probably win. However, if I was Kiora, my heart would be crushed to pieces by that. He will probably get his chance in the next match against Paris, but what if he doesn't? Then Isagi completely scuffed him without an offer at all, and I don't even know what will happen if it goes that way. Now with that said, I'm actually really interested in seeing Hiroi play, especially as the next chapter is called Dive to Blue, and Hiroi has kind of blue hair, so they are probably referring to him. And just look at how fired up he looks when he's about to enter the field. You can really see that he wants this, which makes me really hyped up. Do I think that he will score? Maybe. I at least don't think that Isagi or Kaiser will be the ones to make the finishing goal, as I can see their rivalry going into the next match as well. But yeah, this is just my thoughts on it, and please leave your thoughts and theories down in the comments, as I love reading them. And if you like Blue Lock and videos like this, then I would highly suggest you subscribe to this channel, and while you are at it, leave a comment and a like, as it helps out with the algorithm a ton. And if you're curious to see another video of mine, then please watch the video which will be popping up on the screen now. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.